I was on Instagram the other night and I felt this overwhelming sense of pride in myself for making one particular decision. I shared that I had major FOMO, missing out on my friend and friend of the podcast, Emily Shimwell's dinner party that she was hosting at her home in Squamish with her beautiful community that I'm a part of. And I shared that I knew with conviction that while I felt FOMO for missing out on this event, I knew ahead of time it was going to be the right call. And I was lying on my daughter's bedroom floor, patting her back, rubbing her back, giving her a back scratch to fall asleep because that's the phase we're in. And I was lying there and I thought to myself, this was the right call. But I will say that it has not always been like that. And it has not always been that easy to decipher what I should attend, what I shouldn't attend, when I'm going to have FOMO, and when the FOMO will be worth it. So by the end of this episode, I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself the next time that you're evaluating if there's something that should and could be a hell yeah for you, or something that will actually be worth the FOMO. This is All Figured Out. I'm Andrea Barr. I'm a career coach for parents, a mom of 2, and I absolutely believe that you can continue to grow personally and professionally while protecting family time. We're about to figure out this work, life, and parenting stuff out together. Welcome back to the All Figured Out podcast. My name is Andrea Barr, and it is so good to have you here again this week. It was so much fun to reflect on, this quick little moment that I had, throw it up on Instagram. I mean, the power of just like doing things in the moment, not always being so planful or strategic or whatever. And this whole little experience then led me after that to write in my stories, hey, what do you want to hear more about? First of all, who are you? Who are you that's listening? And so many of you reached out sharing, what phase of parenthood you're in, what you're craving to hear more of on the podcast, and the vibe. And so first of all, I want to thank you so much for that feedback because it was invaluable. And it was what got me off my butt this afternoon. On Thursday afternoon, I normally drop episodes on a Thursday, but I said to Mafe, my podcast producer, I'm going to record this episode today. I feel so inspired, and can we try to get it up for Friday? So that is what we're doing here. So thank you, Mafe, for the rush job here. And I, again, want to thank you for the inspiration because I shared this story and so many of you reached out saying like, yes, I want an episode on this because God, FOMO is such a weird feeling. And it is so, I'm going to probably say the word layered so many times in this episode because it is so layered. There's so much to it, the feeling of FOMO and what it means and what happens when you become a parent and why it becomes this heavier, weightier, meatier feeling that you have. And so all that to say, I was inspired by, this quick little story that happened, this thing that I threw up on Instagram, and then asking all of you what you are wanting more, from this podcast. And it was so apparent that so many of you want to reconnect with yourself. And so many of you reacted to the story that I shared about just feeling like the FOMO was worth it. Missing my friend Emily's dinner party was worth it, which is crazy to say. And those two things combined, I was like, we need an emergency meeting. We got to put this up on the podcast. So we are going to dive into this topic today. FOMO, the fear of missing out. The fear of missing out. Now, I will say, grammatically speaking, the way that we're going to be using FOMO today is not necessarily the fear of missing out on something in the future, but it's that feeling, that colloquial feeling that we have when you're looking at something on Instagram and you're like, oh, that looks so fun. I should have gone. Or the preemptive FOMO of I really want to do this thing and I don't know if I should do it. So that is how we're using the word or the phrase or the acronym FOMO in this particular episode. So as a mom with mom friends, I hear FOMO in all senses of the word. Like, I don't know how much a lot of us actually use the word FOMO anymore, but it just really does describe this notion that we'll be, chatting about today. It describes it really well because there's like a fear, there's an advanced fear, there's a fear in the moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm missing the thing. And then there's this like post fear where you're like, oh, I missed that thing and I kind of have regrets. And we talk about it, as friends, just about like, oh, I went to this thing and it was like amazing. It was so awesome. And I feel so recharged now. And I feel like a better mom and I feel like a better version of myself. And, that's like talking about when the FOMO feels worth it. And then there's the times where you're filled with rage because you've attended something or you've joined something or you've engaged in something where you're like, God damn it, that was not worth my time, money, and energy. And that feeling to me is, there's nothing quite like that for me. The feeling that my time has been wasted, that I have spent not even the money, but money is a thing these days with young kids, as an entrepreneur as well. Like when I'm spending my really hard earned money to do something and I feel like it hasn't been reciprocated with the value that I've been given, say at an event or, even like meeting with somebody and like going out of your way to like drive somewhere or even hop on a Zoom and block your calendar. And it's not reciprocated, that is such an icky feeling. So it's definitely something that is just kind of in the zeitgeist. Like it's something that I know, you probably talk about with friends, family members, partners, etc. And then as a career coach, predominantly specifically for moms, I hear about FOMO in some really interesting senses of the word in terms of, building and growing a career. And okay, I have a bit of like FOMO for the career that I might have built before kids, but I would never trade this role as mom for that. And I want to give you all this context because I think it's a reminder that like, this is the most normal feeling in the world. I think we talk a lot about mom guilt, and I do think that phrase has kind of been watered down. And a lot of us are kind of like, but what is it? Like, what am I feeling guilty? Like, I don't feel guilty. I just feel icky. And I think a lot of it is this like FOMO, I was talking to somebody on Instagram, a friend, a new friend who I've met through the Beautiful Mother Flock community. And I was speaking at an event there and she shared with me that she's one of the first people in her friend group to have kids. And we were talking in the DMs this week as well. And she was like, oh, thank you for this. I would love a podcast episode on this topic because I am one of the first. And I am like, I think she's legitimately missing out on things that her childless friends are getting to do. Like maybe they're going to music festivals. Maybe they're going out to the bar still. Like that is, God, that's a huge piece of FOMO. It's not something that I'm like, currently, and a lot of my friends have kids, but yeah, that's a big one. Or maybe for her, it's like she stepped away from her career. And I know that I remember speaking with her and she was like, yeah, I'm not sure like if I'll be going back, and that she was really excited by that decision. But I wonder if there's a piece there where, some people might be looking at friends who don't have kids or have yet to have children. And they're like, oh, wow, they can like just all their energy can be spent on whatever the heck they want to do, whether that's like, bettering their body or their health or their mental health or their career. So it's it's layered, it's complicated, it is icky. And let me tell you, it's something that you can work with. I promise you that, because I am somebody who has a really strange relationship with time. Like I think, losing my dad at a young age, we grew up with, the understanding that life is short. And my mom is like just such a, beautiful person. And she's like, just do the damn thing because, life is not guaranteed. And I think that's such an incredible way. It's such an incredible way to live. And it has made me so conscious of time. And for me, time and FOMO are inextricably connected. Like those are two pieces. I think when we look at that, we're not really always looking at like the financial piece of it. Really what FOMO is time. Like you cannot be in two places at once. And time is linear. And so I wanted to be at Emily's event, but there was a lot of reasons, and I'll unpack that later. There's a lot of reasons why I didn't go. and why that was the right choice. But man, wouldn't it have been cool if I could have been in two places at once, or had my cake and eat it too, if you will. So let's start with FOMO before kids. Like, let's just take a journey back. If you're listening to this, you probably have children at this point. And so let us contrast. So FOMO before kids was saying yes to one plan and then another plan comes up and you go forward with the first plan that you made, and then you're like, oh, I have FOMO. That other plan looked really fun. Let's talk about a party. So like, you're going to a birthday party and you're like, it's for a colleague, a coworker, and you're like, no, I committed to that birthday dinner. I'm going to go. But then a bunch of your best friends have gotten tickets to this concert and you're like, damn it, that looks like so much fun. Now, that's FOMO. We can still, recognize that that's annoying. That's frustrating. That's like, that doesn't feel great. And it's all contextual. There's nothing really probably bigger going on in your life. So that feels like a big thing. And at the same time, there's not really a lot of other repercussions apart from maybe you spent time doing something. Maybe the birthday dinner was fun, but not great. Maybe you felt like you spent too much money. Like there's repercussions, but it doesn't feel that deep or that layered or that heavy. And, you're like, okay, lesson learned, right? Like that's what you kind of do with it. You're like, okay, that was good information. Maybe next time, if a birthday dinner like that for a coworker who I'm not that close with, if it's not a hell yeah, maybe I just say, I can't make it, but I'll let you know if my plans change. Great, you move on. Maybe you didn't go to a concert, that your friends are all going to, and next time you're like, you know what? I knew that concert was going to be great. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Next time something like that comes up, I'm going to say yes. Lesson learned, right? You move on. So why does it change so much when we have kids? This is something that it's been fun to kind of, I've been thinking about this episode all day and making some notes, and I'm like, what is it that changes? And it is, like I said, it's layered. It is multifactorial. There is this additional piece and this additional context that comes along that you didn't have before. And that is this little person that is like a part of you and feels like they're still maybe inside of you if you were the birthing parent, but they are actually separate from you. And that is our children or our families, your partner, whoever is in your family. And it is that longing, and I think it's a biological thing. I'm not a scientist, but it is that feeling of like, I love you so much. Sometimes you're, driving me crazy, or I know that I need time away from you. And at the same time, it hurts my soul to be away from you. Like, let's just call that out. That is such a normal thing that mothers feel. And we are biologically wired to have that feeling so that we don't abandon our children. So it is just such an interesting thing to think about how FOMO itself, that fear of missing out on opportunities or parties or fun and things like that, how it becomes this insanely complex thing when we become parents. Because at the same time, we are still individuals. We are still human beings, solo individuals who we have to take care of. Like, we've got to take care of ourselves. We know that. We know the whole oxygen mask thing. Put on your oxygen mask first before you can support everyone else in your life. Again, I don't want to be trite on this podcast. Like, we know that. We know that. And now you've got this heartbeat that's outside of your own heart. And you're like, whoa, how do I even decipher this? Because on one hand or on one day, it's like, I want to say no to absolutely everything that has nothing to do with my family. And then there could be another moment, this fleeting moment of like, oh my God, I just want my own time. And those things we flop back and forth. I mean, I'm generalizing, but I'll speak from my own experience. This is like, I flop back and forth these two things all day. There's moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to snuggle you. And I'm lying here and I'm scratching your back and it feels great. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't you fall asleep on your own? I could really just use a couple hours in the evening before I go to bed at 9 o'clock because I have to wake up at 5 to get my workout in, right? It's like, I want it all. Like I want both things. And so it gets complicated. So I want to recognize that that it's complicated. I want to recognize that you might have different feelings on this, that your kind of FOMO journey might look different from mine. And that is great. That's okay. We're all different. So what is it? What is the FOMO when you have kids? It is something that will, take you away from your family. It could be something that will take you away from your quota of solo time. I think this is really important to talk about. I also don't think this is talked about enough, whether it is like an actual quota. So some families, they have a partnership where, one parent will get a Tuesday night off and the other partner gets a Thursday night off, and you can do whatever you please in that evening. You don't have to do bedtime. You don't have to worry about being home. You could be home. You could just be like upstairs watching TV, or you can be out, doing something for yourself, which I think is so awesome. And maybe we'll do that at some point. So that's like an actual quota or like an agreement that maybe some people come up with a partner. But then there's also this like psychological quota. So if you're a single parent, for instance, it might be this like, should I or could I ask family members to watch my kids again? Like there might not be an actual agreement in place, but you're like, okay, from a morals perspective, or I don't know if morals is the right word, but like it's something in your brain that you're kind of making up, or you're like, oh, I've asked them a lot recently. There's like a bit of guilt there. You're like, okay, I probably shouldn't ask more than like twice a month to have a night off or whatever it is, right? We put these rules and restrictions on ourselves. And so that's another piece of it. Is it like your I don't know, moral quota that you're putting as to like how much time you're okay with spending away from your kids, how much time you're okay with asking other people to be stepping in to care for your children, whether they're a parent or not. And then in terms of FOMO, there's also the finances. And so you might be thinking, okay, I really want to go on this trip, this girls' trip that, all my university friends are planning to go on to together. But if I spend money on this, is that money that is now unable to be allocated to do something as a family or to put towards something that we value as a family? Maybe you're saving up for something. Maybe you're saving up for a trip. Maybe if you spend that couple $1,000s, that money could be used to pay off debt or something that would, you perceive as bettering your family. And that's a real risk, and that's a real threat, I will say, as well. And the big one is, this is a question that I learned when I went to graduate school for coaching at Royal Roads. And I'll never actually forget the first time I heard this. And we were watching a live coaching session, and the coach who was coaching the other person said, let me ask you this. If you say yes to this, what are you saying no to? You might have heard this before. This might be your first time hearing this, but I'm actually just smiling. If you're watching this on YouTube, like I'm smiling saying this question out loud because it's so profound. And it's something that I think about a lot. And it's something that I have to remind myself to like ask myself often. And with my own coaches, I'm asked this, if I'm saying yes to this, what does it mean that I'm inherently saying no to? So let me ground it for you. If you're saying yes to going to this work dinner, that is optional. But you're like, you know what? The CEO is going to be there, flown in from Toronto, and this could be a really great opportunity. If I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? Are you saying no to, a random bedtime? Are you saying no to a baseball game? Are you saying no to your daughter's first ballet competition? And that context is so important to take into consideration. And we're going to go through that in the 3 questions that you could ask yourself when you're kind of contemplating FOMO and like, should you, partake in the FOMO or not? If I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Huge, huge question that you can ask yourself. Okay, so what are the things that can trigger the FOMO? So we know that FOMO can happen with something small. We know it can happen with something big. We know that if you're contemplating doing an MBA and you're a mom of 3 kids, that this is a really big conversation. This is a lot of FOMOs that you're going to be wrangling over maybe the next 2 years. Or is it like, you want to get a massage tonight and there's a last minute opportunity and you get that like alert that's like, oh, you've been on the wait list and there's a massage available for your favorite RMT. And you're like, oh, that can trigger it, right? And so it can be, it's not always like the physical time with your children, I should say as well. But it can also be the role of mom. And so if I say yes to going to this RMT appointment, you might still actually be there for bedtime, but you might be gone in the evening during the time where you could be filling out some of the school paperwork. I don't even have kids in school. I don't know why I said that, but I assume there's a lot of paperwork. You could be folding that load of laundry. You could be tackling a few things on the to-do list. Maybe you're going to do a bit of batch cooking. And it's these things that are not actually directly related to you as an individual, but they're for the family system. Like they're for the, the family, I don't know, the support of the family. So I think that's also another interesting differentiator is it's not always physical time, but it's like wearing the hat of mom. It could be something that is bettering yourself. Could be a workout. Could be something that makes you feel really good. It could be a dinner out, which is also really good for you, to be out with friends and to not be just with your partner all the time and with your kids all the time. It could be a weekend away. It could be a work trip that you're saying yes to, that work dinner I was talking about. It could be a promotion. It could be an opportunity where you're given the chance to go for a promotion or go for a job change that you might actually perceive as like really bettering your career. And we get into the situation where you're in this like middle to senior management level, and there might be opportunities to take on leadership roles. And you might be able to say yes or no to that because it could be one of those things where they're like, hey, do you want to go for this? Like, do you have the capacity? And that is a big decision as well. So what can you do about this? So I want to give you some really tangible things to think about in terms of how can we navigate the FOMO? How can we navigate working with it, working through it, preventing it? Because we know it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen today, probably going to happen tomorrow, this week, this weekend. Like when you're listening to this, maybe there is something that you're contemplating that could potentially lead to FOMO. And so I want you to think about how you can maybe work with it. So the first thing I've got for you here is creating a rhythm. So you might have heard me if you've been a listener of this podcast or we've worked together, if you're a client, you know that I love the word rhythm. I love the word rhythm because a routine to me is something that is a bit of a house of cards. Like it's very finite, it's binary, it's black and white, it's in the calendar, and it's a house of cards in that things are stacked on top of each other. And if you pull one thing out from the middle or one thing goes wrong, the whole thing crumbles. So what about a rhythm? What about something so that you're not constantly negotiating with yourself or with somebody else, a partner, your kids or whomever? What if you created a rhythm around the things that create this like FOMO confusion on a regular basis? So things like working out, things like self-care, massage, if you like to get your nails done, like that to me is more maintenance. Is it you're really in a season of professional development and you're really wanting to meet more people. I have a lot of clients who are really in a season of wanting to make more professional connections. And so they're like, yeah, these professional development events are really important to me. And you might want to create a rhythm around that. So that one could look like, I have a client who actually said to me in our action plan phase of our work together in our VIP day, we spend a day together and then we continue the coaching for a number of weeks after that. And so with this particular client in her action plan at the end of her VIP day, she said, one thing that I really want to do is attend one professional development event per month. Something different, not necessarily something that's the same every month. It could be the Breakfast Club, which I host. So that could be a space where you're learning about a different topic every single month. You're connecting with some people who are the same, some people who are different, and that could really check a lot of boxes for you. And I hope that it would. But making a rhythm out of it creates that reduction of decision fatigue. It is just something that you do. And that familiarity for yourself can be really helpful because you're not negotiating with yourself. You're not negotiating then, like I said, with your partner, and your kids are just getting used to it as well. So if it's something that mommy does once a month, goes to this event, gets dressed up, shows the outfit around, like that's really fun. My daughter has gotten really used to me hosting my breakfast club, which has me leave the house a little bit early one Thursday a month, the last Thursday of every month. And I get a little bit dressed up and I enroll her in that process. It's just something that I do. And I show her photos after or show her the videos or the stories that people post. And I, try to explain what the topic was or whatever. And she's like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, okay, should I wear this skirt or this skirt? And it's just something I do. And it takes the edge off. It takes the weight off of it where it's not like this thing that I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to do this again. I'm sorry, I have to leave early. I'm sorry that I can't take you to school because I normally do drop-offs. There's no apologizing. It's just something that I do. And it's something that our whole family is comfortable with. And it's just our rhythm, which is amazing. So what could you make a rhythm out of? A really big one, of course, is, self-care, things like working out. We know that strength training is really important. I've done a lot of episodes on that. So those are some of the things you can start thinking about. What are like the rhythmic pieces that you're like, okay, these are things that are actually like routine, kind of like routine rhythm based that I want to incorporate more into my life. And then that way I will shut up about this in a minute, but that way you're also not negotiating with yourself. Should I be doing this? Should I not? In terms of say like working out. Like for me, my husband and I have had this conversation. We've tried a bunch of different ways of working. And for the last almost 2 years, we've had an amazing rhythm where Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I work out at, between 5:30 and 6. I go to the gym. I come home Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He works out between 4 and 5 o'clock or 4:30 and 5:30 because his work ends a little bit early, and that works great for us. And it's just something that we do, and we're not negotiating with anybody. It just happens. So that's a big piece for you. And I would say that that's like the maintenance, but a lot of what we're talking about here in this discussion is around the, more the things that kind of pop up unannounced, if you will. So for me, I didn't know that Emily's dinner would be coming up. And so that made me pause and think and evaluate and be like, okay, is this a FOMO that I'm willing to take on, or is this something that I'd like to attend? Another thing that you can think about is, who can you talk it out with? So let's go to now like the FOMO or the events or the opportunities that are coming your way that you have to say yes or no to. Is there someone that you can talk it out who knows you really well, who really understands your context, your family dynamic, who understands your finances, how you work, and maybe someone who's seen you kind of go through something like this before where it's worked out really well or it hasn't. I have like a few of my best friends. I would be happy to call them and be like, should I do this thing? And they would be able to give me advice because they know that, yeah, it would really light my soul. Or, well, you seem pretty stressed out right now. Like, is this really the best time? And, my husband's a really good person for this as well. There's sometimes that I do want to make these decisions on my own and then bring it forth to him and say, this is really important to me and this is why. And there's other times where I'm like, I'm kind of on the fence about this. Like, what do you think? And he obviously has really good insight into where we're at, where I'm at. And he might say like, yeah, you know what? That sounds like a really good opportunity. You're really focused on growing the podcast right now. And this is an event for podcasters. Like that seems like a no-brainer. You should really go. Or he might be like, well, you have been out a lot and you've been complaining about being out a lot. Is this something that you really want to do? And there you go. Like, you can really help to just talk someone out. A peer. So if there is a work opportunity that comes available, or like, a dinner or a conference or a promotion, like, is there somebody that you really admire who's kind of walked this path, ahead of you that you could be asking advice from? And when it comes to like the really big career decisions, I will raise my hand and say that someone like myself, who's a career coach, can be really, really instrumental in helping you make some of those decisions and those milestones to be like, okay, does this really, really align with where you're at now, where you're going, and where you want to be, and the process to tackle that? Does it really make sense for you right now? Ego can really get into the mix here, and ego is also an extremely human thing. No person is void of ego. I think you're like a sociopath or something if you don't have an ego. I don't know. There's something where like, you're a bit cray if you don't have an ego. So ego is a big piece of this. If there's something that you want to attend and you're like, oh, but if I'm not there, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm out of this group? Or everyone wants to feel a sense of belonging. There's some universal traits that human beings have. One of them is fairness, one of them is a sense of belonging, and one of them is having, caring for the people that you love most in the world. And so those three things are actually really, tied quite intimately with this topic, where we're talking about, the people that you care about. We're talking about a sense of fairness. Is it fair that I go and do this thing for myself? And it's really tied to that sense of belonging, because if we're talking about something that involves other people or a group of people that you feel connected with, and you're not attending, said event, or you're not going to the birthday dinner, does that mean that you're out of the tribe? Does that mean that you're not, part of this group? So those are things that that you can be thinking about. And so going back to the career side of things, or, professional help, it can be really helpful to have somebody talk you through what is your ego versus what is your soul. Like, is your soul really singing to you, being like, yes, this is going to make you so happy. This is going to bring you a lot of joy. This is going to really propel you forward on these big goals that you have. Financially, this makes sense. Or are you making this decision out of ego because the coolest people are going to be going to this event, or there's people there who you want to be seen with? We really have to check ourselves. Sometimes we all do it. And it's important to just, have someone, sometimes a third party, who can be holding that for you and holding up that mirror and saying, where's this coming from? Another thing that you can do is a cost benefit analysis. Now, there's nothing fancy, there's nothing business schooly about this, but really it is just thinking like, okay, what is the cost of doing this? Actual money. Is there a cost of time? What are you missing out on? If you say yes to this, what are you saying no to? And that type sort of thing. And then what's the benefit? So what are you getting from it? And that's not that's not an egotistical or an icky thing to say. You should be getting something out of it, right? There's no free lunch. There's no, okay, I'm just going to, unless it's like something altruistic, but even altruism provides a benefit to you, which is perhaps a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and that sort of thing. So if you're not getting any of that, if you're not getting any sort of benefit out of it, if it's not bringing you joy, if it's lighting you on your soul on fire, it feels like it's something that's so purpose driven for you, or providing you monetary reward, or bettering your knowledge, or propelling you forward, then what are you really doing it for? And you have to be really clear and really understand, like, is it going to be worth it? Looking at that cost versus the benefit, and does it feel like it nets out positive? And the last piece I'll say on what you can do about kind of working with the whole FOMO thing is, as much as you can, this is easier said than done, commit and don't look back. Learn from it, look forward, but don't look back. Don't come back to that moment and think, oh, I should have done X. There are very, very few situations in which you should allow yourself to feel regret. I really believe that. And I just don't think that there's a situation that we're probably talking about here that you should allow yourself to feel regret. You should feel information. You should feel like some feelings, but I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, I really regret making that decision. Learn from it. It's like spending money on something that like wasn't worth it. And you're like, oh, that was like, oh, stupid me, silly me, meh, meh, meh. Yeah, feel the feeling for a minute, but then take it and be like, great, what have I learned from that? And it's so funny when I'm coaching people as a career coach, the number of times I bring up dating as a comparison or an example is like mind blowing. But dating also fits here. It's like the people that you might have dated in the past, you probably have a list of things from those past relationships that you're like, oh, I really liked that about that person. I don't regret that relationship. And like, man, I learned a lot about like what I liked in that person and what I didn't. And then you move on and you take that as information and you move forward for your future decision makings of what you say yes and no to. So how to prevent it? Because it doesn't feel great to be sitting in the space of constantly having to do these cost benefit analyses and constantly be feeling FOMO because you've said no and almost held too many boundaries up. That's another thing, right? Sometimes we like make these like really hard and fast rules and we're like, okay, I'm not going to do this, this, and this. And then you start feeling a lot of FOMO because, oops, like there's a few things that maybe you actually did want to say yes to, but you drew this really hard line in the sand. So yeah, look at the cost benefit analysis, like really think things through, really understand like where are you at in the season of life? What are your big goals? Where are you headed? Choose wisely. So really look at it as like, if you have a certain number of chips, where do you want to spend your chips? If you have another theory I've heard is the 4-burner theory, where you can kind of turn on different burners, but you have a finite propane tank, filled with gas. You can think, if you're visual, you can think of it like that, to be like, okay, I only have so much time, energy, resources. And talking about your kids, like there's probably only so much time, money, energy that you want to spend away from your kids and not on your kids or with your kids. So if you were to like turn those burners on and you've got this propane tank of gas, like, think about it. Like how much do I want to pour into this? Do I want to go away for a week and then maybe not save a lot of reserve for something else coming down the pike? Come up with some sort of like analogy for yourself, or come up with some sort of visualization for yourself to like really think about like, okay, how am I allocating my time, my money, my resources, etc. And I will say one more time, learning from your mistakes. I had a situation recently, I'll be honest, where I went to something, it was a couple weeks ago, and it just wasn't a hell yeah. And then I got there and it still wasn't a hell yeah. And I never believed that you should have regrets. But I learned that it was not the right time for me to have said yes to that thing. And in the future, I will be more discerning. So this particular event, it was a bit of a drive. It was with a group of people that I didn't know, which I was excited. And they turned out to just not really be my people. So what I learned in that was that I didn't really do my research as to what I was going to and who was going to be there, and kind of what their values were, and like what the vibe was going to be. I didn't really take into consideration how far of a drive it was going to be and how much time it would be taking away from my workday. Because for me, I'm working a certain number of, hours or days a week, and the rest I'm, trying to be with my family and be present, or, moving things forward in our personal life. And I felt really frustrated by the end of the day that I had spent, it wasn't just a 1 hour thing I went to, or 1.5 hour thing. It ended up being this like half day, 3/4 of a day event. And yeah, it was just, I learned that I could do a bit more research. I learned that I need to be better about thinking about time, how much time I want to spend, how much time is actually going to be spent on the thing. And that was a really important lesson. So the 3 questions that I have promised you that I use to really decipher if something's going to be a hell yeah or a maybe not right now is number 1, and I've alluded to all 3 of these throughout this entire episode so far. Number 1 is, what are the factors surrounding the event? So for me with this event, going to Emily's event, the spring was madness. I was traveling. I was away from my kids for a couple different portions of time. There was a lot of evening events. There was a lot of daytime events. There was a lot of time where I wasn't working and wasn't propelling, my business development forward for coaching clients and things like that. And I was quite tired. And so knowing that, and knowing that this event was going to be happening right after a vacation, I was already thinking to myself, okay, this is not a hell yeah based on factor number 1, or question number 1, which is, what are the factors surrounding this event? And for me, the factors were, I had already really pollinated myself out into the world, had a lot of different events, and I don't know. It was I'm not sure. So then I got to question number 2. What am I focusing on right now? Well, in the spring was a lot of seed throwing, if you will. I was throwing seeds all over the place. And my focus right now is really, oh my gosh, this is such a funny analogy, but germinating, if you will, germinating the seeds, watering them, bringing them sunlight, following up with people who I'd met already, following up on opportunities that were knocking on my door, kind of just like getting back into my work and clearing out my inbox, getting back to people, all that stuff that's important to me. And being there for my clients, the clients that I am working with, like really being present for them as well. And so for question number 2, I was like, okay, you know what? It's again, not feeling like a hell yeah, because right now I'm not in a phase where I really want to go to an event and meet and connect with new people. Like I would love to. And the FOMO started at this question in particular because I was like, oh, I would love nothing more, but I don't really have enough in the tank. I feel quite tired. I know I'm going to be tired after this vacation because it's going to be go, go, go. And it's not really aligning with what I want to be doing in my business at this particular moment. So number 3, the third question is, what are my options? Now, if you've been here for a bit, you know this girl loves gray area. I just don't think there's a lot of things in life that are truly black and white. So most of us, when we're thinking about FOMO, we're thinking about attending an event and if we should go, if we shouldn't. We're thinking, okay, do I go or do I not go? But I want to give you a third option. Is there an alternative? So, for the Breakfast Club, I want you to come every single month. I want you to come and join as a member and come every month and really build that community and that relationship. Only if you're in a season of life where that is what you're needing and craving right now. And if not, spoiler alert, I do the Breakfast Club every single month. So if it's not this month, could it be a next month? What are your options? Like, is this the only time that this concert is happening? Is this Elton John's farewell tour? I think he's had like 5 farewell tours, but like, is this the farewell tour, like the actual farewell tour? And you were the biggest Elton John fan and you're like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, well, that's an important factor. There's not many options there. Okay, if you don't go in Vancouver, could you go in Toronto? Is he playing in Toronto? These are the types of things we can think about. So in my case, I haven't seen Emily in a few weeks or months. And I was like, oh, I'm missing her. I want to see her. And that was a big draw for me because I was like, oh, you know what? I'm missing, like, talk about like the nurturing relationships and like kind of coming back and catching my breath is something I'm focused on right now. Part of that is, catching up with friends and things like that. So I haven't seen Emily in a while. I'm like, oh, I'd love to go to her house and spend the night with her. But it wasn't like, that's not really what this event was going to be. It wasn't going to be this one-on-one quality time. And another factor and another option is the fact that I'm going to be going away for a weekend with her next weekend. And so boom, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense for me right now. And those were the 3 questions. Those are the 3 questions that I asked myself. These are the 3 questions that I ask clients a lot in different ways and different variations. What are the factors surrounding the thing that you are contemplating? What are you focusing on right now? What are your goals? What are your objectives? And what are your options? What can you do? What sort of action can you take on this? Is there some gray area? Are there other options other than this one that could tickle your fancy, if you will? So I just want to thank you for listening to this. I'm going to stop there. This has been a long episode. I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes, but I've been going. I feel really passionate about this topic as it turns out. And I'm so happy that it's something that you are keen to explore as well. I want to summarize a few points for you because this has been a long one. So number 1, FOMO is the most normal feeling in the entire world. Number 2, FOMO is layered and it is something that can pull you into seemingly conflicting, complex directions where you feel like you want to be in 2 places at once. And again, that is so normal. That is so normal, being a human being and also being a mom. Number 3, it is all about learning from history, learning from experiences you had where you felt like the thing was worth it or the thing was not, and explore and really, antagonize, like, why? Why did it not feel worth it? Like, what else was going on? What were the factors? What are your actual focus areas right now? What were the options that you maybe had that you didn't really explore? And then ask yourself the 3 questions. What are the factors at play? What are you focusing on right now? What are your objectives and your goals? And then thirdly, what are your options beyond just doing it or not doing it? Thank you again for listening. If you liked this episode, could you please share it with a friend? It would mean the world. Hit that share button, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, or listening online. It really would mean the world. I myself am focusing on growing the podcast in this season, and it would really, really help me out. So thank you for listening. Thank you in advance for sharing, and I will catch you next week.